निपत्य शेषं गिरिप्रसारान् अपि पापराशिन् आश्चर्यरूपो ननु चोरयित्रिक् दृष्टश्रुतो वा न मया कदापि धनं च मानं च तथेन्द्रियाणि प्राणांश्च हृत्वा मम सर्वमेव पलायसे कुत्र धृतोऽत्यचोर त्वं भक्तिदाम्नासि मया निरुद्ध छिनत्सि घोरं यमपाशबन्धं भिनत्सि भीमं भवपाशबन्धं छिनत्सि सर्वस्य समस्तबन्धं नैवात्मनो भक्तकृतं तु बन्धं मन्मानसे तामसराशि घोरे कारागृहे दुःखमये निबद्ध लभस्व हे चरहरे चिराय स्वचौर्यदोषोचितमेव दण्डम् कारागृहे वस सदा हृदये मदीये मद्भक्तिपाशदृढबन्धननिश्चलसन् त्वां कृष्ण हे प्रलयकोटि सतान्तरेऽपि सर्वस्वचोरहृदयं नहि मोचयामि सर्वस्वचोरहृदयान् नहि मोचयामि। हरे कृष्णा, दंडवत प्रणाम। हरिनाम संकीर्तन कीजिए।
दंडवत प्रणाम माता जी। हरि बोल। सुपर।
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Mataji. Hare Krishna Prabhu, Prasanatma Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Pranam.
Dhanwas pranams to you. Dhanwas pranams to all the devotees.
So we welcome His Grace Prasanatma Balram Prabhu. So Hare Krishna Prabhu, over to you.
Thank you Mataji. So once again, Hare Krishna, Dhanwas pranams to all the devotees. Chaurashtakam ki jai. That was a wonderful redemption of the Chaurashtakam. So nice. Thank you so much, Mataji.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. Dandot Pranam.
So the Adhik Mas, the Purushottam month is coming. So this year. So yeah, so the event. Okay. Hope my voice is okay. Audio, video, everything is all right.
Yeah, clear, Prabhu. Everything. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So we will get started. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Cheva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jaya Mudiraye Nashta Prayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langayate Girim Yatkripatam Aham Vande Shri Guru Dinatarinam Paramanandamadavam Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram. Hare Krishna. Right. So today actually we will be looking at 4 shlokas. I just request people to go on mute. That will help. Some disturbance there. Thank you. Okay. So I'll try to share the shlokas. We can take turns in trying to read them. Just a minute. So I hope devotees are able to see my screen.
Yes, Prabhuji.
All right. So today we will be looking at shlokas from 23 to 26 in the second canto, 9th chapter. So that's where we are. So the shloka is, I'll first read the shloka and then the others can take turns in reading them. Pratyadishtham maya tatra tvayi karma vimohite tapo me hridayam sakshad Atmaham tapaso anaga pratyadishtham maya tatra tvayi karma vimohite tapo me hridayam sakshad Atmaham tapaso anaga. So who would like to read? I see some raised hands. So Anasuya Mataji, you can go ahead.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam.
Namaste to you.
Pratyadishtam maya tatra tvayi karma vimohite tapo me hridayam sakshat atmaham tapaso nagha.
Thank you, Mataji. So somebody else can read the translation. That will be nice.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Nirmala Mata.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Translation by Srila Prabhupada ki jai. O sinless Brahma, you may know from me that it was I who first ordered you to undergo penance when you were perplexed in your duty. Such penance is my heart and soul, and therefore penance and I are non-different. Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. So thank you so much. The short translation, but very important. So if we can read it once more, that will be nice. Anybody else wants to try?
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dandavat Pranam.
Namaste to you.
Prabhu, translation one more time, Prabhu.
Yes, Mata, please go ahead.
Yes, Prabhu. Translation, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. O sinless Brahma, you may know from me that it was I who first ordered you to undergo penance when you were perplexed in your duty. Such penance in my heart and soul. Such penance is my heart and soul, and therefore penance and I are non-different. Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Thank you, Bodha Mataji. Thank you so much. So now we'll move on to the next shloka also. So let's see that. Shloka number 24. Who would like to read?
Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranam Prabhuji.
Yeah, Dandavat Pranam. Go ahead, Mataji.
Haribol. Text number 24. Srijami tapasai vedam grasani tapasa punaha bibharmi tapasa vishvam viryam me dushcharam tapaha. Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranam Prabhuji, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Thank you, Hare Krishna. So anybody else wants to do this?
Yes, Prabhuji, can I do?
Please go ahead.
Rajami tapasai vedam grasami tapasa puna bibharmi tapasa vishvam viryam me dushcharam tapaha. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you to both the Matajis. And then the translation, someone else can read.
May I, Prabhuji?
Yeah, yes, go ahead.
Translation by Srila Prabhupada ki jai. I create this cosmos by such penance. I maintain it by the same energy, and I withdraw it all by the same energy. Therefore, the potency is penance only. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much. So the potency is, all right. All right, so we will not read the purports. So I'll just try to cover whatever is given in the purport. And then that way we'll take it forward. And after that, then we'll see the other two shlokas. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manovishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupakada Mahyam Dadati Swapadantikam. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschayata Deshatarine. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gauravakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So before we start, I'm just seeking the blessings of all the elders and then the mercy of all the devotees who are dialed in here. So please bless me, give me your mercy so that I'll be able to speak the right things at the right spirit, in the right words at the right time in the right spirit. And I'm just doing this as a seva for my Guru Maharaj, for the Guru Parampara, and for the pleasure of the Lordships, and for my own purification too. So this particular verse that we just saw now, verse 23 and verse 24, the key element that we are looking at is tapas, or mercy. So now, just a little bit of a background, just chapter 8, as all of you know, I mean, we saw King Parikshit was asking so many questions. So the entire chapter was dedicated for that. And in this chapter, this is chapter 9, which is actually titled Answers by Citing the Lord's Version. So that's the title of this particular chapter. So one chapter full of questions and the other chapter is full of answers. So in this chapter, actually, Sukadev Goswami is he is answering those questions which are raised by Parikshit Maharaj. In fact, one particular thing is that the king, that is Parikshit Maharaj, he wanted to know how it all began and when the living entity came here to this material world. That means, when did we all come here to this material world? And then, so like this, he is asking so many questions. And in front of Sukadev Goswami, who's of course a very great personality. So we all know Sukadev Goswami is a very great personality, son of Vyasadeva, and he is also one of the 12 Mahajans. So that's the background. And in the translation, actually, we see how the Lord is telling. So Sukadev Goswami is narrating, and then he's citing the Lord's version. So he's taking examples. So whenever there is any answering that has to happen, we can see how they always take the reference. So without references, there is no answer that is told. So here also you can see Sukadev Goswami is so exalted, but then he is taking the reference. So he is telling that the Lord is telling Brahma. So there's a conversation between Lord Brahma, and then Brahma, Brahmaji and the Lord, Supreme Personality of Godhead. They are having a conversation in which the Lord is telling Brahma that it was I who ordered you to undergo penances. So now, what is that situation? That was the situation before creation. So some of you might recall, or you might have heard before, how Brahmaji first came from the Garbhodaka Sai Vishnu, from the navel. There's this lotus that sprouts, and then on that, then Brahma is born, or he comes in there. He manifests there. And then he doesn't know what he has to do. He doesn't know how he has to go about doing it. He is everywhere. It was like dark, and then he is wondering, where am I? And then, that sort of a thing. And he tries to find out. He tries to go through take the support of the stem and then go down, all the way down, but he couldn't go. Then again, he comes up, that sort of a thing. So he is perplexed, and then he is not sure. That is when then he hears two words, which is called as tapa, tapa. So there are two words that he hears. So here the Lord is revealing to Brahmaji that it was I who told you to undergo penance, that is to do tapas. And so here the Lord is actually telling, or Sukadev Goswami is trying to bring out the fact that whenever there is any anxiety that we have, or when we are perplexed, so we don't know what to do, how we'll have to go about. Even though we might know what is our duty, but we may not know how to go about doing it. In such situations, then that is in the material world. Here, Brahmaji also was in the place where the material world is manifesting. So he, like him, then we will have to do tapas, in the sense we will have to do penance. We'll have to remember the Lord. And that's the takeaway here. And then the Lord continues, and then he says that such penance or such tapas is, it's actually the Lord's heart and soul. The Lord is saying, it is my own heart and soul. That means this tapas is so dear to me. The Lord is very openly declaring here that you do tapas, it is very, very dear to me. Do some austerity, take some voluntary difficulties, like some kind of this thing. That is actually my very heart and soul. And he concludes saying that the penance and I are non-different. That means the Lord and then the penance are non-different. Now, I just looked up at this word penance and what does it mean in the dictionary, the English dictionary. So penance, it is given as atonement for sin or wrongdoings. So that was how it was explained in many places. But then here the meaning is a little different. It is not atonement for sin. That is prayashchit for us. It's a different word we have for that. Or wrongdoing, that's prayashchit. So here it is different. It means austerity or it means tapas. Now, generally people will ask, now, why I have to do all this austerity? Why I should trouble myself? I mean, that's fine. I will do what I like. I will do what is comfortable for me. I mean, we are talking about things in devotional service, in the Bhakti Marga. So this is the kind of approach or the outlook generally people have. Most of us have that. Now, but then we should understand that we are all conditioned in this material world. And we are all conditioned, not just in this life, but then many, many lives we've been conditioned. So we cannot take that type of stance. So we have to do as a service to the Lord. That's the only way to please the Lord. Now we will have to take some difficulties for the Lord, some physical discomfort, some mental strain, some mental discomfort, anxiety. All these are good. And now we will I'll just try to cover that a little more in detail as we move on. But at this point, the translation says that type of tapasya or austerity is very close to the Lord. It is in fact the Lord's heart and soul. So much of importance the Lord is giving for tapasya in our endeavor to go back home, back to Godhead. Now, if you look at the purport, Prabhupada actually starts by saying that the penance, the penance that which we do, by which we can see the Supreme Personality of Godhead face to face, that is known as devotional service. So Prabhupada actually straight away brings us to the point of devotional service. And then he says that the penance which I can, by which I can see the Lord face to face is known as devotional service. So this is the first statement that Prabhupada is making in the purport. And then he's also explaining that this penance, which is actually going to take us to the Lord face to face, is the internal potency of the Lord. And hence, this penance is non-different from him. So there is a link because it is the internal potency of the Lord. Because devotional service, we know, is actually not on the material platform. That is what we have heard in earlier. I mean, we would have read and then we would have been told that how anything we do devotional service is not material. It is all spiritual. At that point, we might have wondered, how is that possible? But now here we can see a little more clue as to how that is possible, because this particular austerity aspect which is linked to the devotional service, and that is actually the internal potency of the Lord, and it is non-different from the Lord. So anything that is non-different from the Lord is definitely not material, it is spiritual. So penance is divine in one respect, and what happens when we do penance is, it actually make us become detached from material enjoyment. So that's another test by which we can understand that it is spiritual. So anything spiritual that we do, anything to do with the Lord, when it is connected to the Lord, then our attachment or our hankering for material enjoyment becomes lesser and lesser. So this is another angle to it. So as we, in fact, I was hearing one of the acharyas was saying that how do we understand that we are progressing? Okay, I'm chanting, I'm doing my rounds, I'm taking association, I try to connect to the temple, I do some seva there, so on and so forth. So everything I'm doing, but then how is it that I will know that I'm advancing? So one of the first symptoms is that our material enjoyment or the attachment that we had to the material enjoyment becomes lesser and lesser. Okay, it may not become completely zero, but then the intensity begins to come down. So then we know that we are heading in the right direction. So this is one of the aspects. So these two go, it happens simultaneously. As the attachment or the spiritual activity is increasing, the detachment for material things will keep increasing. So now, Prabhupada also saying that the living beings are encaged in the material conditions. Because why they are all encaged, not engaged, cage and encaged. So we are in a cage in this material condition. Why we are in this condition? Because we want to lord it over the material thing. We wanted to be the lord of all that we see. We wanted to enjoy without Krishna. So that is why then we are here and we have been encaged. But when we engage in devotional service, then the devotees become detached from material worldly enjoyment. So this is one of the things that Prabhupada is bringing up. And this actually is the result of right knowledge. So actually we get that knowledge. And because of the knowledge, then we realize that this kind of attachment is not all right. What is the type of knowledge that we get? That these are all, I am not this body, and then it is only the senses that are enjoying. It is not me. I am not the senses. So we are able to differentiate take away the connections between the sense object, the senses, the mind, the intelligence, and all of that, so on. So when we do that, then this is applying the knowledge in the right way. And then when we are able to see it independently, oh, this is a sense object, and it is just that my senses are craving for it. And then the mind feels or thinks that I'll be happy only if I do this. But then actually it is not so, because I'm not that. So on and so forth. In this way, then we will be able to move towards detachment of the worldly material things. So this is actually a manifestation of the transcendental potency of the Lord. So sometimes, we think like this, and then we suddenly wonder, oh, maybe I'm speculating too much. But actually, thinking within a certain framework like this is very good. And this is actually a manifestation of the transcendental potency of the Lord. So now, that is why you can see even in Bhagavad Gita, some of these shlokas like the 9.29, which says, whatever you do it as a service, you offer it to me. What is that? Yad karosi, yad asnasi, yad tapasyasi kaunteya. No, sorry, yad juhosi dadasi, then yat tapasyasya kaunteya tat kurusham mad arpanam. So when you offer everything to me, including whatever austerities that you perform, do that as an offering to me. Then when this offering is done, when this type of austerity is offered to the Lord, then the Lord actually, he becomes very happy. He's pleased with that. So he doesn't want us to see the struggle to take some austerity, difficulty, fast. Yesterday was Ekadashi. So trying to abstain from grains and all that. So a little difficult for all of us. But then we do that as an austerity, then it pleases the Lord. It is not like the Lord is very happy because we are suffering. No, it is because we are actually in the process of this particular austerity. We are actually cutting off the knots of material attachments which are there. And that is necessary. Like how when there is some wound and then it has to be dressed, the person who is going to heal the wound by dressing it actually causes some pain to us by cleaning that wound, applying some antiseptic around it, and so on and so forth. So it might be like, did I come here to get rid of the pain, or I will come here and then my pain has increased? Because at that point when the cleaning is going on, then it becomes very difficult to bear that particular pain, especially when the medicine is put or the antiseptic is put and all that. But then in the long run, and then it is bandaged up properly. So like this, when we keep doing, then suddenly we'll see that actually the skin is growing, and then the pain also is residing, and then finally it goes away. So this austerity is like that, like going to the doctor, and then we have to take that austerity of going to the doctor and bearing the pain so that we'll get better later on. The same way, we'll have to take the austerity in spiritualism so that we'll be able to actually advance. That's only that's only when the advancement happens. And see, actually, in the lectures that I was listening to, they were talking that tapas actually means austerity and penance, which I said. And At the start, actually, Brahmaji did not know. I covered that. And then what to do, how to do. So he takes to penance and then he's seeking for guidance and knowledge. So in this way, the Acharya was saying that we should also do that. And then we should do austerity. Now, what is the austerity that we are doing? Listening is also one of the austerities, because sometimes, controlling the urge to speak and then listening completely what the other person is trying to say. And then, in this way, keeping quiet and then listening also becomes an austerity. And that is actually devotional service, because if we are listening to Bhagavatam, then it becomes devotional service. And then it takes us to the platform where we will be able to see Krishna face to face. So now if you look at the material world, then what is actually predominantly there in the material world? It is only, what is this material world? What is the characteristic of the material world? Anybody wants to attempt that? What is this material world? It is actually dash and dash.
Dukhalayam
It is
Yeah.
temporary.
It is temporary, ashashvata, and dukhalaya. So it is full of misery. There is pain. There is a lot of pain in this material world. And now for this, how do we understand why there is pain, and then help us to realize that pain is good? In fact, His Holiness Bhakti Rasamrita Maharaj is giving a wonderful example, which I'll try to narrate now. So he takes the example of fire, and then a child. And then he says that when a child is going near the fire, and then the fire burns the child's finger or whatever, then immediately what does the child do? The child withdraws or retracts. Now, we don't have to be aware of what happens internally. Okay, the hand went over the fire, and then there is this energy that is getting transferred, and then there is some sensation, some message going to from the hand to the brain, and then some message coming back, and then it says now withdraw. So all this has happened in a blink of an eye. That is how we are actually made. Not only we as human beings, but all living entities. Wherever there is consciousness, then they have this built-in mechanism to withdraw from a pain position to a non-pain position. That means it realizes that I put my hand on the fire and it is giving me discomfort, pain, or whatever. Maybe small pain, maybe great pain, intensity can vary. But the point that Maharaj was making was that it creates pain, and so immediately then we withdraw. Now Maharaj said that the material world is also exactly like that. So we have this capability of feeling the pain, and it is a blessing for us. That is what Maharaj says, because it is a mercy of the Lord. So now when we experience pain, then what we do? We withdraw. But in the same way, when we are in this material world, and then we experience pain unlimitedly, one after another, we are not withdrawing. We are just trying to, like Prabhupada says, no, you shift the burden on to another shoulder. Like you are carrying something heavy on one shoulder. It becomes very heavy after some time and it is unbearable. So now how do you get a relief? Of course, you have to put down the load, then it is full relief. But then we don't do that. So we try to transfer it to the other shoulder, and then, then or to the hand or to the head, and then keep moving around like that. Actually, that gives us a lot of relief. This shoulder is free now. Okay, I can do this. So and then we carry on. But then, okay, that might be a very practical way of taking some item from one place A to place B, which is all right. But what Maharaj is trying to say is that we need to understand how we are not conditioned to put down that load. We don't say, okay, I'll put it down here. So no, we are attached to that load, no, whatever baggage that we are carrying. That's why they say, no, don't carry too much of baggage. Less baggage, then the better the travel is. Even in airports, it is written there. So if you travel with less baggage, then your journey is more comfortable. So even in life, the journey called life also, if there is no baggage, then the best way to travel. Anyway, so now we don't put it down, and then we try to cling on. But then if we are able to see the pain and then we are able to withdraw, we are able to put it down, then what happens is we will be able to very quickly transcend this material attachment or transcend this material world or break the cycle of birth and death and then move over to the spiritual world. So this is just another way. I mean, these are things that we know, but I'm just trying to give a perspective with respect to pain, a perspective with respect to austerity and all that, which will help us to come to terms with austerity. Sometimes you might think, why is austerity? Why should I take all this austerity? No need. I know the philosophy. I understand everything. And I'm reading. I will do all that. But then, no, austerity not for me. Yeah, that might be okay. Because why people come to that conclusion? Because a certain type of austerity might be too much for them. So that is where I think in the next shloka, there is the art of bhakti. So I'll try to touch on that and how much to take and how much not to take. I'll try to cover that so that it gives a little more clarity on the subject that we are talking. Now, another aspect is that there are two desires that we have. We have the desire to go back to Godhead, and then we also have material desires. All of us have that. We know this. So now, both of this, if we have, then it does not go hand in hand. That is what Prabhupada is concluding in this purport. So we can't have both. That means we try to enjoy materially and advance spiritually. No, that's not possible. In fact, in Chaitanya Charitamrita, it is said that only a foolish person will have such dual desires. A desire of material as well as spiritual advancement. That is only foolish people will have. Otherwise, it is not possible. So these are mutually exclusive. So the Lord actually, what he does is, he actually favors such foolish people. You know how he favors them? By snatching all that he possesses in the material world involuntarily. So that's a very scary thing for many of us, because we have heard this before also. And then there is one particular shloka in Shrimad Bhagvatam, which brings about this particular aspect. I'll just try to share that. Just a minute. Yeah. So, yeah, here it says, this is in 10, in the 10th canto. That's the 88th chapter, and then the 18th verse. Shri Bhagavan Vacha, Yasyaham anugrahnami harishye tadhanam sanaihi tatho dhanam tyajante asya swajana dukkha dukkitham. So what does that mean? It means that the personality of Godhead said, if I especially favor someone, I gradually deprive him of his wealth. Then the relatives and friends of such a poverty-stricken man abandon him. In this way, he suffers one distress after another. But actually, the Lord is doing a favor for him because he is foolish and he doesn't realize that he can't do both. That is, enjoying materially and trying to progress spiritually. So that kind of a thing does not happen. So here also, it is the same thing that is being told, where we will have to understand that the Lord will actually, by his mercy, he will take that away from us. So going with this objective of doing both, that is trying to be smart, like sometimes we might think, oh, I can do this, and then I will also do that. So no, and then if you are too attached, of course, the Lord is always wanting. He is not foolish. He's the most intelligent. So he actually gives us some knocks, gives us some warnings, some indications. But if we ignore it, then he might have to resort to this thing of taking it away involuntarily. Like how the child, the parent might coax, cajole, do something to give up a certain toy which is dangerous or harmful. But then the child is not listening, is not getting, it's not agreeing. So then sometimes, the parent will have to forcibly take it. Okay, enough is enough. And then one snatch, then it cries a little while, and then it becomes all right. But then anyway, the danger is then, it's past because it's no longer in the hands of the child. So like that, this particular verse, though it is a very difficult verse, or sometimes people get very scared of that verse, then Acharyas and Srila Prabhupada explained so well, saying that if we are continuing to maintain attachment to material things, even after understanding so many instructions, then this might happen. So, it's one of the offenses also, right? When we are in the 10th offense, I think, it says that to not have faith in chanting of the holy name, and then to continue and then maintain material attachments, even after understanding so many instructions on this matter. So everywhere the message is there. It is just that we have to listen. Otherwise, then it doesn't happen. So this way, the Lord favors the foolish people. So let's be aware of that. So voluntarily or involuntarily, we will have to undergo some austerity, some penance, some tapas, some difficulties we have to take. So it is better that we take voluntarily rather than involuntarily. That's the conclusion of this particular verse. And then he says that only love and peace can please the Lord, and thus one can attain his complete mercy. So when the Lord is pleased, then his mercy comes our way. And then because of that mercy, then we will be able to think properly. So Dadhami Buddhi Yogam. So in fact, he gives us the intelligence. So when we say mercy, what is mercy? Mercy can be in the form of intelligence, higher intelligence, better clarity, or a different situation, or sending a guru, or having more association. I mean, it could be anything. Any of these favorable things which will help us to progress in our path to spiritual freedom. So that's how we will have to understand this particular thing about austerity or penance. And then more on penance in the next chapter, in the next shloka, it says that I create the cosmos by such penances. And then I maintain it and I withdraw it by the same energy. The potency is penance. So much of importance the Lord is giving. In fact, Brahmaji did penance and then he was able to create. So it was only in one sense we are right in saying that it was because of penance that the whole creation came about. And that is what it is being told here, that I create the cosmos by such penances. Because there was penances, I gave the mercy, which is I gave the potency was transferred to Brahmaji, and then the knowledge was also transferred so that he knew what to do, when to do, and how to do. And then he went about creating. So we know that Brahmaji is a secondary creator, whereas the Lord is the primary creator, because through Brahmaji, the Lord creates. So see here, he's saying, I create the cosmos by such penances, and then I maintain it, and then I withdraw it with the same energy. So the potency is penance. So even for an avatar to happen, there is some penance that happens. So they pray to the Lord, devotional service. Bhumi Devi, she prayed to the Lord, and then the Lord agreed to come, and the Krishna Avatara happened. So anywhere, any such leelas you take, you can always see penance is at the root. Dhruva Maharaj, again, so much of tapasya or penance he did, which pleased the Lord. Prahlad Maharaj, again, so much of tolerance, so much of penance, always thinking of the Lord and nothing else. So it was bearing fruit for him also. So like this, bearing fruit, more than trying to say it was bearing fruit, we should conclude saying that it actually pleased the Lord, and then the Lord then gave the mercy, and then things then changed. So this way we can understand. And then in the next shloka also, the penance is being explained a little more. Here, Prabhupada is saying that penance is actually hard work. So he's saying that we'll have to work hard. Hard work is necessary. So I don't know if this is not going well with some of you, but then this is what it says. So if something is going easy, then it means that there is no progress. We are not making any progress. So it is, of course, hard to do penances, but we have to stretch. In the lecture, one more Acharya was saying that we'll have to stretch. This stretching is the austerity or tapas that we are talking about. So what do we mean by stretching? Like say, I'll just give an example. This is how I see it. So like say we are doing, like say every day, when we started off with our chanting, we were able to only get up at 6 a.m., let us say, or 6:30 or whatever. And then we started chanting, and then we used to chant the whole day, like 4 or 5 rounds in the morning, then go to work or whatever, or household work or whatever it is. And then again at 12 or after 11 or whatever, then do some chanting, then again in the afternoon after a nap, then do it, and so on and so forth. So by the time, somehow if we are able to finish that 16 rounds, then we become so happy. It is an austerity at that point, it was. But then over a period of time, it became comfortable. We became comfortable with that, right? So, okay, 16 I can manage now. I've been doing it for the last 3 months, 6 months, whatever. So then we know what to do. So morning, okay, 5, 6 rounds, then evening, then tuck. So I'll finish it up. Before 6 p.m., I'm able to do my rounds. So now the next step is what? We have to take a little more austerity. Now then we will see the people who are guiding us, they'll come and tell us, no, try to finish all the rounds before 6 a.m. or maybe before 8 a.m. Some small concession they might give. Then what happens? Then we start thinking. Then we say, oh, okay, how do I do it? That is Buddhi Yoga. Lord is giving us the intelligence. So he's saying, okay, maybe I should wake up at 5 or at 4:30 or whatever. So let me try. Then maybe on holidays I can do. So little bit of a discomfort we take. So we wake up a little early and then again start the rounds. So like this, but then after some months, and now let us say we are able to do it before 8 o'clock. Yes, we did some tapasya, some austerity we did, and then we were able to finish it. Now we get into a comfort zone in that. So each time we should understand that we are actually getting into a comfort zone when we get used to that austerity. So now fasting till 12 p.m., for example, till noon is not a problem for me. Okay, fine. Earlier it was, then we come up to that stage. And now maybe go ahead a little more. No, I'm not suggesting that we should pass beyond that. I'm just saying how this is all relative, and then how our body actually gets accustomed to this particular routine, and then it is no longer an austerity. So we have to understand that. So then the next step. So like that. This is called as art of bhakti. We actually will know ourselves. We will be able to assess our own seva or service, and then we'll have to see how I can improve that a little bit more. Constantly we'll have to do that. And then like they took this example of a runner, a person who's running, a marathon runner who runs long distances, So that person, he or she, he assesses the strength that is there within him or her, and then the stamina, skill, he varies the pace and all that, and then somehow he reaches that particular goal. So this kind of assessment we will have to do. It's not like, okay, right from the next day, now I'll have to go to that extreme level of austerity. No. Like if you look at it, like it's a huge austerity that our acharyas, like His Holiness Bhaktivinoda Thakur, or His Grace Srila Prabhupada, or all of the acharyas, so much of austerity they do. They used to sleep for only 2 hours. Rupa Goswami, I mean, anyone you take. So that is like physical austerities was tremendous, which is like, I mean, the moment we hear that, then we'll conclude now that, oh, I cannot survive that, I will die. So there's no need to jump all the way there to that particular stage, but then little by little, and that's the art of bhakti that we are talking about. What is it that I can do which is a little better than what I was doing before? And that is the type of austerity that we will have to endeavor for, and then keep making progress. Everywhere, even for a sportsman, it is the same thing. If somebody has to break the 10-second record, first they are told, break the 15-second record, then come to the 12-second, then come to the 11, then come to the 10, then try to break the 10. So nobody says straight away that, okay, from 15, the next day you do 10. That's not possible. So this is austerity or tapas in the field of athletics, where the person is trying to run. And the same way for us, because we are also endeavoring. He is endeavoring for a certain type of glory. We are endeavoring for a certain type of condition which makes the Lord happy, and thereby His mercy begins to flow to us. So we are also wanting something. So sambandha, abhideya, prayojana, it is there everywhere. So but then this is the take on austerity. This is the take on how this becomes an art, and then this is the art of bhakti. And this art of bhakti is actually the mercy of the Lord, because the Lord is giving us this intelligence, and then He is saying that, okay, little by little you do, and so on and so forth. 10.10, that shloka, Tesham satata yuktanam bhajatam priti purvakam dadami buddhi yogam yena mam upayanti te. So dadami buddhi yogam. So He is giving buddhi yoga for that person. So He makes him understand and then move forward. So then we should be able to listen to this, and that's the point. Otherwise it's not okay. So in one way, in this particular verse that we saw, 24, the conclusion is that one has to follow the principle rigidly, whatever is given to us, sadhana bhakti, and then to achieve success and for attaining the Lord's mercy. So we should know that the Lord becomes pleased. The Lord is not comparing, oh, you're only doing 6 rounds, the other person is doing 16. No, 6 itself is so difficult for you. From 2, you have come to 6. So that progress is what pleases the Lord, because we took that austerity to move ahead, and that pleases the Lord. So it's not the number 6, but it is the fact that from 2 we went to 6. It's the fact that from 6 then we went to 10. So that's what pleases the Lord, because that is penance. And the Lord says that is my heart and soul. So this is how in these shlokas we can connect all of what we do, and then what Brahmaji is doing, and then how it all fits in so well. And the Lord Himself is saying that. So all this is cited by Sukadeva Goswami, taking the reference of the Lord. So the answers are given citing the Lord's reference. So in this way, we can, we did see about this particular austerity aspect or the penance aspect. And now I'll just move on to the next shloka. I'll try to share that. 23, 24. I think think I have to do 25, correct?
Yes, Prabhuji. Yes, 25.
25 is there now. So who wants to read? Please go ahead. Let's read 25 and 26, and then I'll discuss on that. Yeah, go ahead. Divya Mataji, you can read.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Please go ahead.
Brahmavacha Bhagavan Sarvabhutanam Adyaksho Avastito Guham Vedahi Apratiruddhena Pragnanena Chikirshitam.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji.
Okay, 15 minutes we have. Okay, anybody else wants to read the same shloka again? Radhika
I'll do.
Mataji.
Thank you so much, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, Hare Krishna.
Brahma Uvacha Bhagavan Sarvabhutanam Adyoksho Vastito Guham Vedaha Pratiruddhena Pragnenayena Chikishitam. Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Mataji. So, Ramakrishna Prabhu, you want to read the translation?
Sure, Prabhu. The translation. Lord Brahma said, O personality of Godhead, you are situated in every living entity's heart as the supreme director, and therefore you are aware of all endeavors by your superior intelligence without any hindrance whatsoever.
Yeah, so now the Brahmaji is actually speaking. Hare Krishna. Yeah, 26 also we will read. Meenakshi Mata, do you want to read?
Sure, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Tathapi nath manasya nath nathaya nathitam paravare yatha rupe janiyam te tvarupinah.
Thank you so much, Mataji. And the translation, anybody wants to read?
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Translation by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. In spite of that, my Lord, I am praying to you to kindly fulfill my desire. May I please be informed how, in spite of your transcendental form, you assume the mundane form, although you have no such form at all. Thank you, Prabhupada.
Thank you. So, here we are seeing what is Brahmaji saying to the Lord. Brahmaji is saying that, oh Lord, actually, personality of Godhead, you are situated in all our hearts, in my living heart entity. I mean, you are there as a supreme director. You are Anumanta and Upadrishta. He is not just a foreseer. Prabhupada explains that. He is not just a observing kind of a personality. He observes, of course, but then he is also, he's giving sanction. He's a Anumanta and Upadrita. Upadrita is foreseeing, and Anumanta is like he's giving the permission kind of a thing. So he is a director. He's a supreme director, and you are aware of all our endeavors. Whatever endeavor I make, Lord is of course aware of it because of his superior intelligence, and there is no hindrance. It's not like somebody is blocking me. So I don't know if the Lord really saw me when I was doing the service. So there's nothing like that. So the Lord is aware. There's no such thing. There is no hindrance in any way with respect to when it comes to what is transpiring or what the Lord is seeing, what we are doing and what the Lord is watching. So there's nothing that comes in the way. So what what Brahmaji is saying is that you are situated in our hearts. So he understands. He has that knowledge, and then you are aware of our endeavors, and then you are directing us. So like how the Lord actually directed Brahmaji to do tapas. The word tapa that he hears, Brahma hears, are the words that is uttered by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and that is what Brahmaji actually heard. And then he also was given the intelligence to understand that there is a message for him to take forward there, so that he will come to know what he has to do, how to do, so on and so forth. And then he meditates on that, and then everything is revealed to him, and then he went about the creation. So now this kind of conversation is not happening only with Lord Brahma. Lord Brahma and then the Supreme Personality of Godhead, okay, the Lord spoke to him. No, he is actually speaking to all the living entities. That is what Brahmaji is saying. He did not say you spoke to me. He said you are situated in all the living entities and then you know what each one is doing. So you are actually directing. How is he directing? By speaking to us, by whispering to us. But then this noise is getting drowned. This sound or the instruction or the direction or the whispering is getting drowned. Why? Because we have a lot of noise. We are like, there's so much of interference because our mind is busy. Our looking at sense objects, and then we want to enjoy. We are planning. Our mind is so busy that we are not able to hear this particular noise or the instruction that is coming from the Lord, who's situated in our heart. So actually, when we give up all these, when we cut the external noises that are there, all the interference which are there, when we cut all that, then we can actually hear the Lord speak. So one way of giving this up, cutting all this external noise, is by devotional service. What is the devotional service that we are told to do day in and day out? Anybody can answer that quickly?
Chanting.
Chanting Mahamantra.
Chanting. So that by chanting, then it becomes more clear. One can actually cut off this particular noise. That means one can detach oneself from the material things. And then, in fact, this is very nicely depicted in that one particular drama that generally in ISKCON we all would have seen, that Me and My Mind, So what happens in that? I presume many of you would have seen that. So there, so much of distractions are there. So he is not able to hear anything. Then later on, when all those distractions are cut off by chanting Hare Krishna, so now we have some distractions. So let's mute people. 1 second. Okay. So then only, then actually the sound of the flute is heard in the drama. So actually, that's though it is depicted that way, but actually that is true. So you can actually hear Krishna whispering. So Krishna plays the flute or he speaks, it is the same. We can hear the instructions become very clear. And then we, so this rejecting of material thing will have to happen by devotional service, which is chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, which is Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. By continuously chanting this, we can actually cut off this external noise. Thereby, the internal voice of the Lord can be heard. And that through that internal voice hearing, the Dadhami Buddhi Yoga, or we are placed in a certain situation, or somebody is there to help us, then the surrender. See, in any one way, it will manifest for us. Or for all of this, actually, we need intelligence. We need intelligence to do devotional service also. We need intelligence to actually surrender to somebody. Why we are surrendering? Because we know, we have the intelligence that that person will take me. Why did we all surrender to Prabhupada, to the Guru Parampara? Because we are convinced, we know. And then how did we become convinced? By the use of our intelligence. So whichever way you look at it, it all comes to the Dadhami Buddhi Yogam, which is actually, where did this intelligence come from? We didn't have that before. So it came to us from the Lord. And then how did the Lord give it to us? By mercy, because we took some austerity that pleased him. And then he started reciprocating. And this reciprocation, we will have to identify, acknowledge, and be grateful to it. The more we are grateful to this, then the more humble we become, and then the more the mercy comes, and so on and so forth. It becomes an upward spiral. It's not a downward spiral. It will keep on elevating us more and more. So the Lord as Super Soul in the heart of all knows what's in our minds. So we can't do anything without his knowledge. So the Lord gives everyone the chance to fulfill one's desire to the fullest extent. And then the reactions are also awarded. Then we have to suffer. And then the cycle of karma happens. Whatever is the desire, the Lord is sanctioning. But then he sanctions with certain clauses for certain people. Okay, you can enjoy this, but then be aware that you will have to suffer later on. So you want to eat meat? I mean, we have heard all these examples. So anyway, so like this, it is having the Lord's sanction because we desired it. And then, so we'll have to be very careful on what we desire. And then we can actually enjoy materially only with the Lord's sanction. For this, actually, there is this example of a drunkard that is given. So in short, that example is like a drunkard wants to drink in a prohibited area. There is a prohibited area, or a smoker. Now the government knows that, okay, there are so many smokers, people want to smoke. So, but smoking is banned everywhere. But then they have created certain places where, okay, you can just go there and then smoke. That doesn't mean that they're encouraging smoking. They're just giving a chance so that you can take, satisfy that desire, and thereby, and then also try to come out of it in the long term. So they also put some warning signs and then some scary pictures, and then they try to discourage, they try to tax more. The cost keeps on increasing in every budget. So many negative things are there to help so that we will get discouraged from that habit. But then they also create a zone, a smoke zone, when they build a government building or anything, because they know that, okay, there will be some smokers, so they'll have to go there. So we will put a small space there so that it doesn't affect the others. And then slowly over a period, they also give up. So like this, the Lord also might agree and then sanction certain things for us, but then we will have to bear the consequences, which means that in the example of smoke, it is like the health deteriorates and so on and so forth. So like that, we should understand that whatever we do materially, we are trying to enjoy, we will have to face the music or the consequences of that. And we've agreed to face that. And that is why we have like more like the drunkard or like the smoker. So in one sense, we are all like the drunkard. And in the same example for the drunkard also. So the drunkard or the smoker, we can say we are all like that. We have a desire, and then that desire we want to fulfill. We can't become desireless, Prabhupada says in these two purports, actually, because if we are a living entity, if we are living, then there are desires. So now we will have to perfect the desires, Prabhupada says. How do we perfect the desires? Desires can be perfected by serving the Lord, and then by aligning our desire to the desire of the Lord. So thereby, then it becomes perfect. So earlier, our desires are not aligned to the desire of the Lord, and then the Lord becomes very happy when our desire and the Lord's desires are aligned. Like how Krishna desired that the war has to happen, Kurukshetra. Arjuna did not desire it at the beginning. Then later on, then he aligned his desire in a way that he said, okay, Karishye tava vachanam, so I will do what you have asking me to do. Your wish is my command, and then whatever you wish for, then I will do. That's all. So he kind of aligned his desire to the desire of the Lord, and then everything became perfect for Arjuna. So like this, we will have to align. And then what the Lord does is, the Lord uplifts and protects by giving guidance and fulfills all the desires. And also he makes us desireless. So when we pray or do penances to the Lord, even with some desire, then he purifies the desire. He might sanction it or he may not. But eventually the outcome will be that, okay, we no longer want it anymore now. Like how we had desired it with so much of intensity before, that's not there now. If it doesn't happen also, it is okay. But then if the Lord so pleases, then it is all right. Otherwise, it is all right. So we actually begin to feel like that in our heart. It's not just the lip service we are saying, but actually we begin to feel that. So this is the transformation that happens. And this transformation is because of the mercy of the Lord. And we will always have to count for the mercy of the Lord. Mercy, blessing is a mercy. So what is transpiring when the Lord is blessing? It is a mercy. So that mercy could be more intelligence, all that, whatever I said before. So in this way, Brahmaji is actually saying that you actually fulfilled my desire to be a creator by empowering me. And then you have you have blessed me so much that, after this, then, he knows what is going to happen to him, what is his position and all that. So he's just there carrying out the instructions of the Lord. And after that, then he knows that he will move on and then serve the Lord, or he'll be in the association of the Lord after his term is finished. Okay, it's a very long term, that's all. But otherwise, anyway, it will finish, and then after that, he'll move it. So like this, the Brahmaji is saying that you have actually, all our desires, and then you're fulfilling it, and then you are actually uplifting us. So this is what the Lord does, a double benefit that he gives us. So in this spirit, actually Brahmaji is saying, I am praying to you to kindly fulfill my desire. And that is what he is saying in verse 26. What is that desire? And then what happens after that? All that we can hear tomorrow. So on this note, just to conclude, we started off by looking at penance, about tapas, and then how it is so dear to the Lord. So I hope we, after reading this or hearing these lectures, then definitely we will have a soft corner towards tapas or austerity and not be so scared like we were scared earlier. And we know how to approach it also. Take it step by step. I mean, you only bite off how much you can chew. There's a saying in English, right? So you don't have to take a bite off something bigger than what you can chew. And that's catastrophe. You'll spill or you'll choke or something. So in the same way, whatever tapasya I can handle at this point, okay, a little more I will handle. And then I'll get used to that. I'll come to that platform, then a little more. Then again to that platform, then a little more. So there's no heroics here. So you're not trying to say, okay, from tomorrow, I was a 2-rounder. From tomorrow, I'll do 16 round. And all of it I'll finish before the sun rises. I mean, that's like too much. I mean, that type of tapas, or shapat, I think it's not advisable, especially in Kali Yuga. We are not made for that. Okay, there were personalities in the past who took such vows and they were able to live through that and then get to that stage and live through. But in this world, in this current scenario, it is not possible. So the best thing is to do step by step. And the step by step also pleases the Lord. And then the reciprocation is also step by step. So whichever way you look at it, whatever instructions the Lord has given, either in the Bhagavad Gita or if he is speaking in the Bhagavatam, and it might look like he's speaking differently, but then it all boils down to the same thing, that we will have to give up our attachment to worldly things and connect to the Lord, serve the Lord, have the right mind, ahaituki apratihata, and then that's the way forward for all of us. So on this note, I'll stop here. If there are any comments or questions, go ahead. Otherwise, then to all of you. Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna, Dandat Pranam Prabhuji. It's a very nice explanation of the art of bhakti, how to improve our tapas, connect with Bhagwan to improve our spiritual progress, actually speaking.
Yes.
But I have a small doubt in connection to the continuation of the yesterday's session, Prabhuji. Sorry,
Okay.
I don't know whether I could ask. It was a very good question raised yesterday by the Prabhuji. Actually, Brahma got the intelligence from Bhagavan directly in the mode of sound. It was not in any written scripture. So we understand that Bhagavan gave the knowledge to Brahma on his tapas in the mode of sound with his playing his flute. But when Madhukaitapa stole the Vedas and they went and Bhagavan came in the Hayagriva, correct?
Sorry, I'm not hearing.
Am I audible, Prabhuji? Am I audible, Prabhuji?
Now you are audible. Now you are audible.
When Madhukaitapa stole the Vedas, Prabhuji had an excellent question. What was the form of Veda? As we all know, it is in the sound form. What did they stole? How did they steal that? I'm just searching in all the things. I don't know what they actually stole from Brahma. The Veda was stolen.
No, I understood when you said about Hare Krishna. Can you hear me?
Yes, Prabhuji, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. See, I heard up to the point where you said in the previous class, they said that the knowledge from the Lord to Brahmaji came through sound, which is speech or words like tapa. Okay, so that is fine. After that, what is the point you were trying to make? It was not very clear.
Sound tapa, he started doing the tapasya for many long years, and he got the blessings of Bhagavan, got the knowledge through the form of sound only. Where maybe in the mode of playing a flute or something, Bhagavan has given the intelligence to Brahma for creation of this material world and the knowledge of Vedas. So the question was, the Prabhuji asked us, when Madhukaitapa stole the Vedas from Brahma, what was it actually stolen, was stealed from him? I was just searching in all the books. I couldn't really find, and I couldn't discuss with any of the devotees. I was so curious to know that, Prabhuji.
Yeah, Prabhuji, actually what Prabhuji had asked was that when it is in the form of sound, how can anybody steal it if it is something as an object?
It is not a written form.
But it is in the form of sound. So what exactly was stolen and how was it stolen? That was the question.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yes,
Prabhuji, I also tried to search, and what I understood was, Prabhuji, in the previous times, the Vedas were in the Shruti form, and during the period of Madhukaitapa, when the demons came to steal the Vedas. By then, I think it was written down by Vedavyasa in the form of written scripts, which were stolen by the demons and which probably Hayagriva Dev, the Lord Hayagriva recovered. That's what I understood, Prabhuji. But you please enlighten us more on that, if we are right or wrong.
Mataji, in one sense, you might be right there. I am not very sure about it, but I will just tell you the way I understand this. See, because we say sometimes, something was stolen or I lost my voice. Now, what do we mean by I lost my voice? Voice is a sound, but then what did we mean by I lost it? So it means that, okay, I'm not able to speak. So it's not like I went somewhere and then I misplaced it and then it got lost. So these are expressions that are used. Now, this is one aspect. The other point is that in the earlier days, what it was, how it was, and then people possess certain powers where they could, kind of take away something from another person. They could take away their memory. We could give them the memory. So what does all this mean? Like, it means that they had some powers whereby it was getting blocked or whatever. However, we want to understand, we can understand. But then it was stolen in the sense that it was like it had gone away from him. It could be physically it was stolen, or even if it was stolen physically, then they wouldn't have minded it so much because it was always in their head, so they could always get another copy or whatever. But then that was not the point. It was the point that it landed up at a place where it shouldn't be, which is with the Rakshasas, and it had to be brought back, which means that it went as memory or it went as some substance. Even now in the internet age, sometimes earlier we used to transfer file onto the pen drive and then physically we used to move the information. Today on the net, in the cloud, and then so many things happen. So you could move it here and there. So likewise, in those days, whatever was the ethereal thing, so they had to bring it back, and that was the endeavor that was happening. And I think that is and that's how I think we should look at it. That's what I would say. What I'm trying to say is I'm not so worried how it was stolen, but I know the fact that it went into the wrong hand and then it had to be brought back, or it should not remain there. If it were in the form of memory, it had to be regained, erased and then copied back, or whatever, however you want to conclude, So I know I'm just giving a very, very crude example, but this is the way I see it. I don't know if I've really answered your question. I think I haven't. But since I've not heard, I don't know in what form it was, and I'm not speculating too much. I'm just saying it can be like that. Why not? So many things we don't know, so it could have happened that way. So this is what I would say.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Radhika here. Thank you so much, Prabhu. I think you have answered it clearly, but I also wanted to check with you. Is it very similar to what in Bhagavad Gita Krishna was telling? Right? The science of Bhagavad Gita, I taught, like 20 crore years ago, but it was lost. It's not that physically it got lost, but then it's sort of hijacked by the bad. Is there similar context? I just wanted to
similar
check
context, and that's a good example that you thought of. So thank you for that. So he said that this science appears to be lost the way it was, and then some other form is existing now. So I am re-establishing it. Yeah, that's another example. So yeah, whether it is in physical form or it is in the in a subtle form, somehow it is not available in that form for good use. It is in the hands of somebody for wrong use. So it has to be corrected. So yeah. Thank you, Mataji, for that.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Dandavad Pranam. I have one question.
Yes, Mata.
Prabhuji, you had mentioned about the shloka about Yasyaham Anugrahnami Harishyet Dhanam Shanai. So should we understand it this way that if one is too much attached to something material, need not be like wealth, it could be an object, it could be people, it could be relationships. Whatever one is too attached to, is that the one that Lord will take away? Or in general, it is about poverty only?
See, it should be viewed as what you said, like too much of attachment to something which is hindering the devotional service of that particular devotee. So that will be removed. It's like the doctor, there are so many symptoms or so many things that are clouding that particular thing, the medicine to work. So he tries to take that off, right? So something like that. So yeah, it's that particular aspect which is taken away. So in most terms, it is the dhanam. So that is why that example is given. So we'll know the continuity when we read that 88th chapter of the 10th canto. So we'll know in what reference he is talking. But then our acharyas have explained so well that we should not be too attached to anything material. That is not a very good situation to be in. We can have some desire to have something. See, I may desire a car, for example. But if I'm too attached to it and I'm only thinking of it, dreaming of it, and so on and so forth, and I'm contemplating on it, and then it is actually affecting my other things, like, and that's not correct. While having a desire is okay, but then having excess, like what do you call that? Lusting. I mean, that's how they explain this word lust. So attached that it's like very intense that you can't be without it and all that. Then that's not a good thing. And that is when then the Lord will step in to ensure, because we are not able to hear, and then He'll have to step in, and then this thing happens.
So how I understand is you can have desires. Like, why I'm asking this question is sometimes like we are thinking of the well-being of the family members, like children, especially that they should be safe, especially if they are in a different location. So sometimes it bothers you. Is that called attachment, or is it just some form of prayer? Or only those attachments which are hindering the process of devotional service? But in general, we are human, so we are okay to feel emotions. So
we are okay to feel emotions, Mataji. So we are humans, like you said. And whatever you mentioned now about children, it is an attachment. Technically, yes, it is an attachment, because we don't feel safety of other people. It's only our children. So there is attachment. But then we are not paranoid about it, and then allowing it to. So when the more we begin to depend on Krishna, the lesser is the anxiety, these type of anxieties. So we know that, okay, Krishna is there, He will take care. Whatever has to happen will happen. And I'm sure that He will take care, or in the way that is best based on the situation. So he is there. So I shouldn't worry too much. Earlier days, I mean, I'm sorry to say, I know there are a lot of Matajis here, but then earlier days, the parents were not so attached to their children in one sense, because they had too many of whatever the reason. But then they depended on the Lord. They said, okay, they will grow up, and then everybody grew up like that only, actually, if you see. But today, with just one or two children, then, we tend to become more attached, because we want the best, and then we feel like, oh, I just have one or two, and then, I mean, if something happens, then it's devastation. So, I mean, I'm not saying that earlier they were insensitive or today we are more sensitive. I'm not trying to get into a not so good discussion that way, but I'm just saying that the attachment quotient has gone up a little bit in today's world, because of media, because of the way we think, the way the whole thing is coming up, because of how we've been told and all that. So some that extra things which are there should not be there. Yes, of course, I'm concerned for the children. I should also be, but then we should have this buddhi yoga to think that, am I really concerned about the other children also in the same way? Because they are also children of Krishna. They are also children of the Lord. So if that is there, then the balance is there, then Krishna knows that you are on the right track. So that way it is okay. I mean, these are all
along with the faith that Krishna will take care. Can we also ask Krishna for protection?
Absolutely, we will have to ask Krishna to take care. We'll have to pray. We'll have to do that, and we'll have to pray. Yes,
okay. It will not be treated as a selfish desire.
It will not be considered as selfish, because you're praying for something that you want, but then that's okay. I think Krishna still fulfills, and then He also gets you to that point where you're not so selfish, even if you come across as selfish. So He'll take care. But then we'll have to pray. He will rectify it. He will correct it off. In His own way, He will bring about that change or that transformation. That's the confidence and the faith that we should have, and then we should pray. So even if there are some mistake, it will get corrected in the course.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Today's class was really enlightening for me. It felt as if like everything is talking to me, whatever doubts I had, you were talking to me, answering all those doubts. It was very wonderful, Prabhuji. Thank you so much.
Yeah, it is Sukadeva Goswami who was doing the talking. I was just the messenger there. Okay, so thank you.
Krishna consciousness is also making us detached, Prabhuji, gradually. That's also a blessing.
Yes.
It
is a little scary at one point sometimes, but then it is, eventually it becomes fine.
Yes,
because sometimes even...
Yeah, but then we learn to depend on Krishna.
We'll have to learn to depend on Krishna.
Yes.
And the more we depend on Krishna, leave it to Krishna, then the better it is. And that is what Krishna is expecting. And then He says, then you're not interfering in my way. Otherwise, see, Krishna had a certain plan for a certain individual. You had another plan, and then you're praying. So you're actually interfering there,
Yes, when something happens in the family, I just say, just leave it to Krishna. He'll take care. If it's good, it will work out. Otherwise, just leave it. If it doesn't happen our way, then maybe we have to go that way.
Very true. At this point, it is only theory that we are discussing now. And at least theoretically, we are right now. Now moving on to the practical, of course, that is the tapasya, that is austerity. That is where then we should pray to Krishna to give us the intelligence at that point when it is needed the most. When I am in a difficulty, will I have the presence of mind to think like this and come to terms to myself and then regain my composure and then move on with life? That's and that itself is a penance, actually.
Yes.
Arjuna did a penance, even though Abhimanyu was killed and then he lost his composure. Then quickly he regained, and then he went on, and of course he took a shapat, all that, but then he went on, completed the battle. He didn't blame Krishna. He didn't say, you were there still, this happened, and then we didn't see that sort of a thing. So this regaining of composure, having the right mindset, the right intelligence at the right time, all this is the result of our tapas, or the result of the mercy that is coming from Krishna. And that mercy is determined by the austerity or the tapas that we endeavor and take. Okay. So we can conclude. That should be all right. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you very much.
Yeah,
Thank you so much.
Offering obeisances to all the Vaishnavas. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya patitanam pavanebhyo
Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Ananta Kote Vaishnava ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Gaur Sitanath Paramanande Hari
Hari Bol.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Very nice.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Prabhuji,
Very nice section.
Brain made this
Thank you.
so you'll have to